Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Konich-Yeehaw, the anime podcast here on the Last Choice Network. I'm Natalie, and I am, as always, joined by Taylor. And today we wanted to talk about different anime like art styles or genres, and just how like art is different within different anime genres, and just kind of like what makes up the style of anime. So I would say that there are like, mm, well, we wrote down five genres. Um, the two major ones, which we've talked about here and there on the show already, are shonen, right, which is for boys, or it's like translates to um, like for boys. It's usually for like teen boys, and then there's shoujo, which is for girls, teen girls. Um, And I would say that like just between those two, right? Those are like the really broad ones, right? Um, the art between them is very like distinguishable, I think, at least. Um, for example, I mean, I've already mentioned that I watch like a little bit more shojo than shonen, and definitely like I think that like there's like more sparkles and hearts and like like there because the whole point of like the shoujo genre is that it's usually about like teen romance, right? So it's more like about feelings and like even if it isn't like romance, it's relationships at least because it can also be like with friends or like how like a group of friends how they relate to each other. So I definitely think that I think the colors are like a lot more like lighter. And like I said, like the eyes, they sparkle to really show that there is some emotion. Yeah, did you have any notes on the genres?
Um, which I was looking at the differences in shoujo versus shonen, and you can definitely tell that shonen is more directed towards boys, teenage boys, because a lot of their art styles are a little bit darker. They still like to use vibrant colors, but they normally tend to use their animation style to really emphasize on fighting and violence more than they do like a slice of life maybe or
Hmm.
there are still some relationships in those in shonen, but they're more like friend than they are actual like relationships between people. Like occasionally you'll get them, like in a fairy tale, you get the relationships between like Gray and Natsu, and then you'll get Gray and oh wow, I'm gonna blank on her name now.
Sorry, I can't help you there. I
I
have not
know.
seen Fairy Tale.
I'm gonna blank on her name, but there's a girl in Fairy Tale that chases him around the whole time, and you don't really get
Hmm.
to see the true relationship until like the very end of the whole anime.
Hmm.
So, but there are a little bit here and there where they do develop some relationship, but not nearly as much as you see in shojo.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and I think, oh, okay, one thing that I think is kind of interesting about the shoujo uh genre and drawing, and I think it's more so in older shoujo, but I feel like the characters are always just so tall. Like or they look so tall. Their legs are so long and they're so like there's some like the body proportions like they don't look right. They don't look
They,
very like cuz the legs are so long. I don't really know why that is, but I think that's to me very distinct in like the shoujo genre.
I'm not really sure why they do that, but for instance, like you don't see a lot of that in shonen though.
Yeah,
Like
right?
you see a lot more like for example, like in Black Clover, the main character's like got to be like 4 foot nothing, but he's just blocky and built, super
Mhm.
muscled up. But you don't have a lot of like tall, skinny characters. Like they use like maybe one, but that's to kind of like pick that person out as hey, that person's not the same as everybody else.
Mhm.
Like they're a little off or something
Mhm.
normally.
Yeah, that's just like another like I guess defining trait that I could think of in shoujo. Um that like really sticks out to me. Um yeah, and then the other like I guess you could say like uh sides or whatever, the other like two genres um, that we haven't talked about yet are seinen, which seinen means young man. So whereas shonen is like more for teens, seinen is like more for um, geared towards like adult men. So it shows like Cowboy Bebop and what was the one that you mentioned? Sorry,
Uh, Black Lagoon or
that's right. Now.
Jormungand falls
Yeah.
into that.
Yes, and then in the same vein, there's josei, and josei is for geared towards young women. Now, I definitely like do not know a lot of josei. Personally, I can really only think of one, and that's Revolutionary Girl Utena, which actually you could maybe even argue goes like back and kind of goes back and forth because Revolutionary Girl Utena is still about like a high school but it is definitely in a different and more of a josei art style. I would say that art wise, josei and seinen actually look kind of similar in the sense that like we were talking about, it's more of like a standard, a realistic looking style. The eyes aren't as big, the proportions make more sense, you know. So like
Yeah,
they look kind of similar. It's really all in like the content, right? The subject matter. Where josei is still about more geared towards like relationship, but it's just from like an older perspective. So.
yeah. And with the seinen, they're you can definitely see the art styles in there. They're a lot darker, especially
Yeah.
stuff like Black Lagoon and Psychopaths. Like they're set up and designed to be darker, so the art styles are draw the way they draw characters are more
hmm
rigid and realistic. Like in Gangster, like they draw some of the guys like real scarred up, and they don't like in towards like like villains and stuff. They're kind of a little uglier than like your
hmm
heroes and things. Like they really try to emphasize on how dark everything is.
Yeah, and like what I read was just that Satan also has this like focus more on like politics and violence. So more, I guess you could say it's less about the woes of being a teen boy and more about being like an adult. I mean, just like the more like adult troubles, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that would be true because they kind of play on that with Jormungand, how because
hmm
Jormungand's about an arms dealer and she's selling to different countries from around the world, but the main character actually in that is a kid that has joined a
hmm
group of mercenaries, and Jormungand is the name of the group that that kid's a part of, and
hmm
it's just an arms dealing group of mercenaries. And you see a lot of politics in that, how they deal with from country to country, and how the dealings, the inner workings of something like that would be going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I know whenever I think of like I mean, I already mentioned like Cowboy Bebop is like my first thought when I think of seinen. But whenever I see this that like, the seinen genre has like this more focus on politics and violence. I think that you could even say that's a lot of like Gundam movies would fall under that, I think.
I Yes, they would definitely, especially
Yeah. I know that that's like mech is like its own genre with its own like style, but
it is its mech, but there's heavy politics in both of them.
oh
Like
yeah,
the
for
wars
sure.
going on between the
Mhm.
Earth Alliance and the colonies the
Mhm.
whole time, pretty much in every one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of politics in Gundam.
Yes, for sure. And then the last one that we looked in is well, let's see if we can say if I can even say it right. Kodomo, I think, which is essentially like children's anime. So, I mean, the biggest example being, of course, Pokemon. Pokemon, Digimon. It's a style of anime that is actually like geared towards children. Um, and I would say it is a lot more rounded, like as in like the shapes are rounder. And the colors they seem like lighter. Like still like vibrant colors, but maybe like less saturated. I don't know. And it is definitely like the people, like the shape of the figures in it, like they look physically smaller, they look still like proportional, like I said, in comparison to like shoujo with like the really long legs, right? um
Yeah.
yeah.
Or like or seinen where every guy is super muscle not seinen, shonen where every guy is super muscled up and
Yeah.
really bulky.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be like something like softer, right? For kids to consume. Yeah.
it's probably one of the more like common anime styles too, because you see it a
Hmm.
lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. And then so there are a couple of like terms that I wrote down just to kind of talk about in regards to art, or like how anime is talked about like in like art wise. So actually one of them that I wrote down was just like CGI, which of course like CGI, right, it just means that it's made in a computer and not in a traditional hand drawn sense. And I know there are some animes that do it and do it well. Some of them I don't think they do it as well. Um, Something about seeing like a rounded, like a 3D anime model that doesn't quite always like translate well in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they did it with they did it a little bit with Ruby. They
Mhm.
the new Berserk was done that
Mhm.
way, which
Mhm.
I'm not a fan that they did it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely CGI is something they've been trying to use more and more here lately.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of it. If it's done well, it can look good with certain animes, but
Mhm.
not not every anime should ever go to that. They should just kind of keep it in their own little box.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. Trying to think. One that I don't mind is definitely Dorihiro, which does do the CGI, and I love Dorihiro. I think it doesn't look bad. Like there are definitely some moments where it's like, oh, like you can tell that maybe didn't it would have looked better if it was traditional, but overall, I think that it does it pretty well. I know that there's the Blame, or I think it's pronounced like Blom, movie on Netflix, and that one didn't look very good. The only part of that actually worked was the robot enemies, right? And I think that's kind of um like it was really starting with like whenever people wanted to animate like machinery more. I feel like that CGI became huge because it was just easier to do it that way, right? Like it's easier whenever it comes to um animating machinery to have a model that you can just move and not have to draw, you know, different frames for it.
Yeah. And you can also get into like smaller details in that
Hmm.
CGI of moving parts and moving gears inside of the
Yeah.
machinery. So
Yes.
you're drawing in the frame of what you already have in the scene. You're not
Hmm.
drawing the whole thing over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um. Yep. And then, so the other like three that I wrote down was the Chibi, Moe, Kawaii, which all kind of relate to each other a little bit. Um, so with Chibi, I would say Chibi is like the most different of the two. Um, what it basically means is it's like a style of anime that is like hyper childish. So like everything is very small and round and very cutesy. Uh, like the characters are meant to look like babies, essentially. I mean, they're meant to look very young.
Oh,
Yeah, and um, I mean, from what I've seen, a lot of chibi animations, it works well whenever it's not a very long, like lengthwise of a show. So like whenever I think of like chibi animations, I think of like those shows that are like 5 minutes long, and like it's like almost like a real slice of life, right? Where like every episode is something that has like no consequence to the episode before or or after, and it's just like super simple. Um, yeah, and then with I guess I'll just talk about kawaii. With kawaii, right, that just means cute. Like it means cute, and it just means that it's like the aesthetic of cute. So hearts, bows, sparkles, pink. I don't know. Like it's like what a lot of shoujo anime uses, as well as like if they want to add in like a feminine character or like a cutesy character, then usually um she has to like be kawaii or have like a sense of kawaii, right? And then with moe, honestly, moe sometimes it confuses me. I'm gonna be real, sometimes it confuses me. But um basically my understanding of it is just that it's like kawaii. Moe is kawaii, but it's a little bit more realistic, I guess, in how it's drawn. It, you still want your characters to like look younger than they actually are, though. Um, and it also like has to have this feeling of like purity, so like of innocence, I guess. Like that's really important in it. I know whenever I like one of the biggest like moe examples is K-On, and I really like K-On. Um, and I remember whenever I first watched the K-On movie, which is the plot of the K-On movie is that they go to London. They take like a week trip to London. And when they go to London, all I can think is like, who let these children run around in London unsupervised? And then I have to remember that they're 18. They're 18. They're seniors in high school. Like that should be totally normal, to like go on a senior trip. But I'm just like, who
Yeah.
let them run around by themselves in London?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I can definitely see that with the moe style, with them definitely taking a teenager and trying to make them look like they're preteen to a kid almost. Yeah, that's really funny. Someone dropped children off in London?
I
What?
know.
Oh, that's good. So I wrote down a few of them too, different
Hmm.
styles that we haven't really talked about much either. So like there's like they started getting into this cartoonish style of anime, which it derives a little bit from the Western animation, so Western cartoons and stuff. So they're trying to implement it into anime. So you get a lot of shows like Kill la Kill, where it's real cartoony, real way over the top, and it's the animation style is still real light. Like the colors they use are real light, and they try to be fun with them, even though like Kill la Kill has some darker tones to it, but they still use these bright, vibrant colors to kind of
Hmm.
show off everything. And the sparkles. Don't forget about the sparkles in Kill la Kill. I love those. And then you got other stuff like Gurren Lagann, which is a mecha anime in sense, but it's got some darker tones. But then again, it's also really bright and vibrant. Like all the characters are real brightly drawn. They're vibrant colors on everything that they wear, from the second lead's sunglasses that are normally sticking out like this far off
Hmm.
his face that are bright red. Um, and normally, most of the times, they try to really exaggerate the features of the characters. So, like a guy that's muscled up, they're going to take him from what would be a normal bodybuilder guy, and they're going to make him look like the Incredible Hulk, just to
Yeah.
really show off how strong he is compared to everybody else. And then the next anime style I wrote in was the realistic anime style, which you really see in Josei and the Seinen, because they both of those really like to push towards like a 18 plus audience normally.
Hmm.
Either whether it be male or female, they're really pushing for that more realistic. They still have some things that are a little over the top, but they really like to push for like a realistic style. So no super exaggerated features or anything, no super huge eyes. They try to draw them pretty close to like an average people here and there. They do go a little over the top with some of the builds and some of the characters, just to give it that little extra flair of how maybe this guy's stronger than everybody else or something along those lines. And they definitely don't delve into like etchy, so no
Mhm.
super huge, robust breast or anything like that. So
Yeah.
they try to keep it average on all of it. And the most of the tones in a lot of those are more serious tones. They like, so when you're drawing characters, you're not drawing the character to really be bright or funny. You're trying to keep them as serious as possible with how you draw them. And I listed off some examples. We've already talked about one, which was Black Lagoon and Jormungand. We've talked about a little bit. And Black Lagoon is this whole pirate kind of anime.
Mhm.
It starts out, but it's really a group of mercenaries that have kind of taken over. Like they kind of control this island that's not controlled by any government, and they mainly run like deliveries for the higher end clientele for the different mafias and stuff that run the island. And it's about a guy that actually was kidnapped by the Black Lagoon Corporation, and he's just kind of fallen in line with them now and joined them. So, and that's, I kind of fall into really liking those animes because Black Lagoon and Jormungand are two of my more enjoyed animes. Uh, Other than that, I think I wrote down beautiful art style animes, which are more your high end, big budget animes. So what
Mhm.
I would call eye candy.
Yes,
So you see it like
definitely. So
see it like
shiny. Yeah.
just the like everything about them. The backgrounds are super well done. The characters are super, just everything is just beautiful about those animes. And
Mhm.
Violet Evergarden, I've watched bits and pieces of it here, and it's everything about it's just gorgeous. Um, Another example that I've kind of seen a little bit of, I probably need to go back and rewatch it because I watched like the first 3 or 4 episodes of it, and I guess I got away from it because it wasn't what I was looking for when I first saw it. Saw Animal Skull with kidnapping a little girl, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" It's what I thought it was, but it's not what it was. It's the ancient Magus Bride. So yeah.
Mhm. All right. Well, I was so what I wanted to do for the like I guess you call it like the second half of this episode was just talk a little bit about an artist. We Taylor and I both picked an artist to just kind of do our best to explain their art style and I mean this is a podcast so you're going to have to just do the best you can with our words here as we talk about a visual medium. So um I'll go first. The artist that I picked was Masaki Yuasa. I would say that he is probably like in America at least the most well known for doing the Netflix Devilman Crybaby. So um I guess like if that is something that you as a viewer have like seen, if that's like your point of reference for him, just try and like visualize that. Other pieces that he's done are Lou Over the Wall, which is also on Netflix, and Night is Short, Walk On Girl. Those are both movies that he actually did at the he was making them at the same time. And um and then he also did the I mentioned this here, the anime show Keep Your Hands Off Izuken, which I think is really cute. It's a shoujo anime, and it's about these girls who are in an anime club. So it's an anime, and these girls are making anime because they like anime, and it's like really just like a love letter to anime as an art style. And it's these, it's really cute because it's just these girls like trying to figure out how to make an anime. But with Yuasa's style, I would say that it is, in my opinion, very distinct. He is he is like, I guess you could say like philosophy or theory or how he feels about animation is just that it's a very freeing art form. It's something that you can do anything with. There are really no rules. And I forgot where exactly like I read this, but I want to say that he thinks that a lot of people who are in animation are still too bound to like the the physics and the laws of like of the world. and he really wants to like experiment and push outside of that. And that's like how we get the really weird scenes like in Devilman, like when they're running. Like nobody runs like that. Like they're running like horses or something. Like all of a sudden on all fours whenever they're devils. Like so he wants to like make it weird. He wants to um really like think outside the box whenever it comes to like portraying how like people move. And part of that is also he wants like his characters to be able to express like this greater emotion that he thinks you can only really achieve whenever you animate freely. So whenever you animate like without realism, he's actually really big on like kind of abstract work. Um, uh, a lot of his characters are very elastic. They're very stretchy, if that makes sense. If you've ever seen how he animates his characters eating, it's they consume and then their neck goes out and then it goes back in. Like it's very exaggerated. They're always very bendy, I guess, is a way to put it. Um, his color palette is usually kind of limited, actually. Sometimes it's very vibrant and sometimes it's very limited. I know, but I'm thinking of Night is Short, Walk On Girl, which I know wasn't very popular in the US, at least I don't think. But it's just about this girl. It's like super slice of life. It's this girl who is just like going bar hopping, and it's all the people that she meets and all the friends that she makes, and it's just like a little like city adventure, I guess you could call it. But in that anime, all of the characters, they're drawn so simply, and they're all white, like they're all like paper white. That's their skin tone, and she's wearing like this bright red dress, and that's like all the contrast that he needs to like set her apart. Um, let's see. Um, I read that he actually uses discrepancy to his advantage. One of his like defining features is his discrepancy. So whenever he like his directing style, I guess, yeah, his directing style is that he has his background animators and his character animators just do whatever they want. And he uses the discrepancy between his background and his characters to tell the story like in a higher way, because the background should be saying something different than the characters. Like that's how he thinks, right? Um, and of course, like sometimes it looks silly. Like you get the whole like uh, in um in Devilman, like Akira's head is getting bigger every single time it pans to him while they're eating. But um but overall he uses discrepancy to his advantage, and it's definitely a defining point in his art style. Um and then lastly, what I wrote is that he was actually greatly inspired by and I can't remember the scene now, but he was greatly inspired by there's a scene in Fox and the Hound um, where they're fighting the bear. I can't think of it now, top of my head. Whenever I read that, I was like, huh, interesting. But apparently, in that fight scene in Fox and the Hound, he or that animator used like these really abstract frames to like portray this fight. So like you never actually see them like fighting a bear, but you get the sense, like you get the feeling that okay, they're fighting a bear. And he loves that. He loves trying to like make all of his in between frames really confusing but impactful nonetheless. So like even like whenever we're like moving scenes like in the frames maybe get a little weird, um he really still wants to like use that as a chance to impact the audience with like just like a feeling. Um yeah, I really like Yuasa's work. I really like his art style. I think it's really fascinating and I really influential for like modern anime.
I think I went the opposite direction because when I was originally looking all this up, I was looking at manga artists, and I
Uh-huh.
just couldn't get my I couldn't get off of one of my favorite mangas, which is Berserk. So Kentaro is
Mhm.
definitely who I'm going with today
Mhm.
for artist. And he Berserk is actually one of the top selling manga of all time. So that just tells you how good his work is with what he's doing. And he uses mainly just a grayscale, and he's so good at telling his story with just a grayscale and depicting even the bloodiest, goriest moments just with blacks and grays and a little bit of white here and there, even up to different combat scenes between the characters, the transformations of the characters, and it's all done in just gray. So he's really good at depicting the characters themselves using just limited color, basically. So going from storytelling where they're traveling from one continent to the next over the sea to fighting the basically what is a sea king of a monster, and he's using all these different just shades to literally come into his own with the characters with guts and wow, I can't think of her name. All the Berserk fans are going to kill me for this. Get hate mail from them all. But but even drawing the ships and the water using grayscales and really making it look realistic, like he's real good about that too. Like his characters look realistic; they don't look too foreboding like his actual characters. And then his monsters, they really have that sense of just being really foreboding and evil and just a little bit over the top without being too abstract, even though some of his monsters are, like the crystal dragon that Guts fights when he first gets the Berserker armor. Because what dragon's made out of crystal? So, yeah, Kentaro's definitely, and he's definitely influenced a lot of things like from Cloud from Final Fantasy with the Buster Sword. A lot of, if you've seen a character with a giant sword, that's probably where they got their influence from, especially nowadays. They even did memorials to him after Kentaro passed away in Final Fantasy because that's where Cloud came from. If it wasn't for Guts, Cloud wouldn't have a giant sword and be the character that he was. That's pretty much really all I got for Kentaro. I should have looked more into manga,
Oh my
a
goodness.
little less into manga, and a little more into anime.
Oh, no, it's totally still counts though. I mean, it's an art style and it does definitely translate between the two, manga being written or drawn like in a book and anime
Yeah,
being animated.
it's another artist that's kind of just popped in my head is Toriyama, Akira Toriyama, who does Dragon Ball. He actually for a while he did the manga and the anime.
Mhm.
and and then you could tell when he took his hiatuses and let his actual animators do the animation for it. The art kind of fell off a little bit, like some in Dragon Ball Z, and then at the beginning, like when they started Dragon Ball Super, he wasn't really animating a lot for it or giving much direction to his animators, so you could really see the fall off of from what he is capable of to his actual animators.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, no, Toriyama's really good on both sides.
Yeah. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. I definitely had fun talking about anime art styles and having a little artist spotlight. Um so yeah, thank you guys for joining us for this podcast. We are Konich-Yeehaw here on the Last Choice Network. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Spotify. We release our episodes every Tuesday at 9 a.m. And well, see you next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.